Today's other headlines start with a resignation at the Federal Reserve. Fed Governor Adriana Kugler announced today she's stepping down early. That leaves President Trump a position to fill on the central bank's powerful board. Kugler's term would have ended in January. Instead, she's leaving next Friday. Kugler did not offer a reason in her resignation letter, writing that she's, quote, proud to have tackled this role with integrity. This comes as President Trump continues to attack Fed Chair Jerome Powell over his decision not to lower the central bank's short-term interest rate. Markets slumped today after the weak jobs report and President Trump's new tariff threats. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted by more than 500 points. The Nasdaq suffered the sharpest drop on the day, losing more than 2%. The S&P closed lower to round out Wall Street's worst day since May. Convicted sex trafficker and Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, has been moved from a federal prison in Florida to one in Texas. Both the Federal Bureau of Prisons and her attorney confirmed the move to the minimum security facility, but didn't explain why. Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in jail for helping Epstein sexually abuse underage girls, a case with renewed interest over President Trump's former relationship with Epstein. Justice Department officials interviewed Maxwell at a Florida courthouse last week, and her lawyer has urged the president to pardon her. Turning overseas now, there was an official day of mourning today in Ukraine's capital city after Russia's deadliest air assault on Kyiv in over a year. At least 31 people were killed in yesterday's attacks. Mourners laid flowers at the memorial today and toys for the 5 children killed. 16 other children were injured. Meanwhile, in Russia, President Vladimir Putin told reporters to keep expectations low when it comes to peace talks.
All disappointments arise from excessive expectations. This is a well-known general rule. It's necessary to conduct thorough talks to reach a peaceful settlement, and it should be done calmly during the negotiation process and not in public.
Putin's comments were seen by some as a veiled reference to President Trump's increasing frustrations. Today online, Mr. Trump escalated tensions, saying he had, quote, ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be repositioned to appropriate regions, warning against more, quote, foolish and inflammatory statements from Russia. Trump has threatened to slap new sanctions on Russia unless it moves to end the war by the end of next week. Lawmakers in El Salvador have approved constitutional changes that will lengthen presidential terms to 6 years and remove term limits.
With this reform, we are giving power to those who should always have had it, which is the Salvadoran people.
The party of President Nayib Bukele has a supermajority and quickly passed the changes, meaning he could seek re-election indefinitely. Critics say Bukele is removing checks on the presidency in order to consolidate power. He has become widely popular for cracking down on gang violence in El Salvador, though human rights groups have condemned his tactics. Back here at home, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which has for decades distributed federal funds to both PBS and NPR, announced today that it's shutting down. That is after President Trump recently clawed back more than $1 billion of funding for public broadcasting. In a statement, CPB's president said, despite the extraordinary efforts of millions of Americans who called, wrote, and petitioned Congress, we now face the difficult reality of closing our operations. PBS and its stations get around 15% of annual revenue from federal money. Parts of the Mid-Atlantic are bracing for more heavy rain this evening after downpours yesterday triggered floods, killing 1 person. New Jersey officials declared a state of emergency as roads flooded across the state, stranding drivers. In New York's Grand Central Station, water from heavy rains poured over commuter trains. And outside of Baltimore, authorities say a boy playing outside was killed when floodwaters swept him into a storm drain. In Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History has temporarily removed all references to President Trump's impeachments from an exhibit about presidential power. That exhibit features materials about the Watergate scandal and the impeachments of Presidents Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton. But mentions of Mr. Trump's 2 impeachments were taken down last month. The White House has repeatedly targeted interpretations of American history. The Smithsonian said the references will be restored once the exhibit is updated following a review. And gone are the days of the chain gang in the NFL. The first down line has gotten a serious upgrade. At last night's preseason game, the league debuted new technology that measures the 10-yard target virtually. It relies on a network of 8K cameras to track the ball's position. It's the very same technology used in tennis Grand Slams. The NFL said the system will save time compared to the old process, where referees would mark the distance manually with a 10-yard chain. The trusty chain crew will still be on the sidelines, but only as a backup. Still to come. On the News Hour, we examine the president's ongoing effort to reshape the White House in his image. David Brooks and Jonathan Capehart weigh in on the week's political headlines. And photographer Platon speaks with a renowned Pakistani filmmaker about gender inequality.
This is the PBS NewsHour from the David M. Rubenstein studio at WETA in Washington and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.